Hey everybody, I'm Eduardo Esparza. Today I will teach you about how to make a SaaS website that converts. Thank you for joining me today. So your website has one primary goal, and that is to help you sell more software. Today I'm going to walk you through 4 guidelines to make this happen. Number 1, find your value proposition. Number 2, the user is the hero. Number 3, get their hands on the product. And number 4, embrace testing and experimentation. So the fact is that without a good website, you don't have a SaaS company. That's because the website has such a critical role in communicating the value of your software. And how you come up with a communication strategy in a website that can help you sell your software, well, that depends on a couple of things. Sales strategy, which can be low touch, mid touch, or high touch, and the target market you're going after, which is SMBs and mid-market and enterprise. The combination of these 2 factors will give you a certain set of parameters to know how you can communicate the value of the software and the type of website that you need. So whom you should communicate with. On the right side of the spectrum, selling to enterprise, you're going to be selling to buyers. On the left side of the spectrum, selling to SMBs, likely you're going to be selling directly to the users. What does it take to sell your product? Well, it depends on the complexity. More complex products will need sales reps involved at some point in the sales process. Simpler products can go completely touchless. The goal of your website then, as you approach the upper right hand of this chart, high touch selling to enterprise, the goal of your site is going to be to generate MQLs for sales to follow up with. And on the lower end, low touch selling to SMBs, likely your website's role is going to be to generate product qualified leads and sign up users. So the ultimate conversion goal of your site, selling to enterprise, high touch, likely you're going to want buyers to engage in a demo request, a proof of concept, or an assessment. And low touch selling to SMBs, like you're going to want buyers, users actually, to engage in a free trial or freemium, get their hands on the product. A few examples of companies playing different parts of the spectrum. You see low touch, a few examples here is Lucidchart, Trello, MailChimp, and Jira and Dropbox that spread across a wider spectrum of the target market. On the mid-touch, you have Zoom and HubSpot. HubSpot has a particularly interesting strategy because there's parts of the product that are free, but still they use that as a hook to expand into different spectrum of customers there all the way to enterprise. And on the higher end, with more complex sales processes, you have Cisco and Qualtrics, and these guys are generating MQLs through their sites. I have a danger zone here, of course, selling high touch to SMBs, that's not very scalable. So today we'll focus on this part, the combination of target market and sales strategy that will be more conducive to a product-led growth strategy. So what kind of website can support that? So how companies can make websites that convert? But more often that I would like to see, I still see a lot of this type of conversation going on between a designer and a founder. So what do you want on the homepage? The designer asks, and the founder goes like, we want a spectacular graphic, we want to make a wow effect, you know, let's establish the design and we'll sort out the text later. And the designer, cool, great idea. And below the hero, something about what our customers want, for instance, change the future, something close to that. And the designer, I can make this look really cool. And he may even suggest to do the entire website using lorem ipsum text placeholder. I'll tell you, this is not going to work. This is not how you make a website that converts. And basically, you're disregarding all the validation. I mean, or where is the customer here? Where is validating what the customer actually wants? So your website is the means for your users to sign up. So you have to treat it as a first-class citizen and actually put some goals and performance measurements around it. So I want to walk you through these guidelines on how to make a website that converts. Number 1, I said, is find your value proposition. So let's compare these 2 value propositions from chat software companies. One says a new and better way to acquire, engage, and retain customers. The other one says all-in-one customer support software. So I want you to think about a couple of things. Which one's more inspiring? Which one tells you where it is? Which one's more specific and clear? Which one has a more clear next step or call to action? I guess what I want to say here is that there's no better or worse. It's just different formulas. And these are things that you kind of have to try out to find exactly what's the formula that worked for you. The only thing I can say is the one on the left is focused on the ultimate benefit. It's more inspiring. And the one on the right is focused on a more specific use case, and it's a lot more technical. So there's, in summary, there's 3 formulas that you can try to find an effective value proposition and see. You can try many of these to see what resonates with your audience. So the first formula is what it is. Say what it is. An example on this same chat software. This example is specifically from Intercom. At some point, they had this formula on their website. It said simple, personal messaging for businesses and their customers. What it does is the second formula. Here, the example goes, have live conversations and send targeted messages to website visitors and users of your app. It's telling you what the software actually do. What you can do with it. It's a new and better way to acquire, engage, and retain customers. This is what it allows you to do. So it's the more inspirational formula. There's no right or wrong. You have to try it out and see what your audience reacts to in a better way. Other elements of a killer value proposition is targeted. So clearly articulate who your solution is for. Specific, it can apply to, if it can apply to someone else, it's not specific enough. And then it's gonna be unique. So it's gotta set you apart from your competitors. And so the #1 factor in coming up with a website that converts, it's a message that resonates. And to come up with that, we have to know your customer. I've been doing this for a long time now, and I wanted to guess from how many times I've heard a founder explain the product in the same way than his customers. 0. The answer is 0. Not a single time the founder has used exactly the same words than his customers to explain what his software does. So, case in point, at one point in time in a meeting, the founder of Slack, Stuart Butterfield, was asked, so what is Slack? And he goes explaining, it's the next generation platform to streamline communication, distributing messages, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody in the room, when he's done, he goes and says, it replaces email inside your organization. And the guy was like, oh, okay, I got it. That was a lot simpler. So this is classic. You know, lots of websites out there is driven by founder speak, and you have to realize that and change it. So my point is, if you're not sure how to say it, ask your customers. You have to become customer-centered, and what you believe doesn't matter. Just put that aside, because you have to change that founder speak to customer speak. And the only way to do that is through research. And some of the things you're going to discover through research are things like, why are customers buy from you? What problem were your prospective users trying to solve? How did they realize they had a problem? Which competitors did they consider? What was the trigger that made them look for a solution? Et cetera, right? But I mean, you have to ask open-ended questions so you get the rich language. Don't make this a multiple choice type of questionnaire, because that's not going to give you the input you need to come up with effective messaging. So how do you collect this feedback? Well, you can run surveys. You can pick up the phone and talk to some customers. Sometimes a combination of these things. You can make it part of your onboarding. So as soon as you sign up, you can ask some questions and put that in a workflow. You can run polls on the website. You can ask questions at specific points in their life cycle. So you can define those points as, you know, when it's a lead, when it's and when they just onboarded, activated, and when they start using some stickier features in your application. You can start asking certain things, and then when they start slipping away, also you can ask some questions there. And then look at user behaviors on the site and inside the app. All of this is going to give you a lot of insight. I get a lot that some companies think that it's tough to talk to customers. Well, the hint is you're already likely doing it. You know, for one, product. is using customer feedback to prioritize new features, hopefully. Customer success is already helping users. And sales, if you do have a sales department, well, they're speaking to customers every day. So talk to your team and share insights and integrate your questions into their conversations, or maybe tag along in some of them. The point is that you can't allow ignorance to stay in the way. So you have to do whatever it takes to get real user feedback. Use it to figure out your value proposition, and then you have to iterate on that. So guidelines we went through is the first one was find your value proposition. Number 2 then is the user is the hero. You have to do anything in your hands to help the user do his job. And to do this, there's a few things you can do. Speak to users, not to buyers. Okay, your entire communication strategy needs to address users straight up. This is not talk about ROI. This is not about the strategic reason why you should acquire this. It's just how you can do your job better. How can this tool, your tool, can help the user do his job better and easier. In contrast, for example, just for contrast here, Oracle speaks to buyers, and that's because they're selling enterprise, complex stuff to enterprise. So the natural way of doing a website like this, the right way, is actually speaking to the visionary, to the leader. The other thing you can do is to make it tangible. And a good way to do this is, the before and after, or the old way or new way. In this case, Drift is using this. The key thing is that you have to make the gap evident, and you have to make sure it resonates. So the old way, when the user is looking at this and is, okay, yeah, yes, this is how my life is today. And the new way, well, you have to paint the vision of heaven, and it has to be very credible and very clear and easy to grasp. Another thing to consider is that you have to speak as a trusted friend. And so in this case, MailChimp is having this headline: create beautiful branded emails that make you look like a pro. So this is a friend trying to help you, right? Why this works, I mean, there's a couple of embedded things that they must know about their customers here that is very interesting. So assumption number one that hopefully was validated, is that the customer wants to create branded emails. Number 2 is that they want to look like a pro. So who they're targeting? People that actually want to get recognized for the quality of their work. So very interesting, very well studied if it's based on evidence, right? Show different use cases, another critical thing. So if your application has specific use cases for different teams in the organization, different types of users, or solves different problems, you have to make sure you have content to address those. Like in this case, Drift has marketing teams and sales teams, and they specifically address certain problems like setting up meetings, account-based marketing, etc., right? Regarding your content, you have to make sure it's truly helpful. And following a product-led growth strategy, even content is part of that journey of discovery, right? So in this case, Heap Analytics is offering in one of their solution pages, how to build your own data, your own customer data platform. And they offer this piece of content that is even ungated, okay? They don't put a barricade in front of it because they want to keep the focus on getting the users to sign up for a free trial. That's the only focus of their site. And any friction you put in between is just works in detriment of that goal. The other thing is that you have to structure the story coherently, and a great place to do this is on the homepage. And you see these long scrolling pages, but it shouldn't be left to common sense or opinions. What to put on the site, because then the story doesn't flow. The website homepage, it's going to be likely a long scrolling page, and you have to make a story flow structured in a logical way. This is a good way to do it. Good and tested way is not the only formula, but I'm going to walk you through one that does work. So at the top, you have an overall value proposition. Then you contrast the before and after, so you can easily grasp what the tool can do for you. Explain the problem that you solve, and then introduce a solution and give them some highlights. Close with a call to action, and some additional educational content. And within the page, you want to sprinkle some social proof to make sure that the user knows that your tool actually works and can do the job. So we have gone through 2 guidelines now: find your value proposition, the user is a hero. Number 3 is get their hands on the product. Everything else is secondary. So your ultimate conversion point is a demo, most likely a trial or a freemium. Here's some formulas you can try for these conversion points. Number 1 is use social proof. In this case, SEO Clarity has 3 things going on here. One is a sheer number of companies onboarded, very recognizable logos, and an impressive testimonial. So trying social proof as that last bit to get them to sign up for demo in this case is a formula they followed here. Another formula is to recap on the benefits. So we went through, the customer has gone, the user has gone through your site, read about you, about the solution, and you're asking for a free, to sign up for a free trial here. So you have a set of bullet points recapping on all the key benefits that they might be interested in. The third formula is just get started, right? Not much elaboration, just a brief introductory paragraph and some help text to make sure that the form is simple and easy to follow. Number 4 is inline sign up. So if you have enough motivation, this kind of trigger actually can work. Here, you don't even have to go to a separate page. You just enter your email and get started. This is intercom. And the 5th formula here is just plain vanilla. And it's just a variant of number 3. But here, just basically just put the form and that's it. I already sold you. You're already here. You already read everything we said. I don't have to sell you on it again. Just go for it. So how do you get their hands on the product? Is kill friction points. So how do you get people to that conversion point? There's a few things that are very important to keep in mind. Design, user flow, navigation, and then to show the product principle. So I'm going to tell you what the role of good design is. Because I see a lot of people gravitate towards, yeah, we have to have a cool design, but it's just like relationships, right? Beauty makes you trustworthy and your partner tolerant with you. Website is the same thing, but what is beauty website-wise? Well, that can be scientifically explained. There was a study in the International Journal of Human-Computer Studies, and well, there's 2 factors of beauty. One is prototypicality, or how typical a website looks, or how familiar it is, basically, and then visual complexity, or how cluttered or busy it looks. So prototypicality, it has to do with following conventions that users are already familiar with. You don't want to be too original, because it will be just confusing. So you have to follow conventions like the menus at the top, always show the active area where you're in. Search can be found at the top right. The value prop is the first thing that you can read on the page. The request a demo button or ultimate conversion point is as a courtesy place on the menu navigation on the top right. And it has kind of become a standard. And the reason why it got here to the first place was for returning users, because people will come to the site and read the content many times before signing up, likely. So once they have made up their mind, they can come and easily find that call to action. And of course, the company and identity on the top left. So let's talk about visual complexity now. The point is that simpler is, in the eyes of your users, scientifically speaking, more beautiful. So don't try to clutter everything with background video and motions and fill every pixel with some kind of design element. Actually, white space works really well because it highlights the area that you want your focus on. In this case, it's the value proposition. Navigation is another critical thing to consider, especially in a product-led growth kind of strategy. Typically, what you see is that the more items are in navigation, the lower the conversions, just because it's just a lot more to do mentally for the user that is coming to the site to say, okay, there's so many items here, I have to go through all of this. If they see just a few of them, it just keeps them focused on task. So try to minimize this as much as possible. Limit actions. If you can limit your primary call to action to just one, that's the absolute best. And then concise language. Don't go into long run sentences. Just use simple words. Make it crisp, short, and snappy. So to make your site beautiful, you have to follow conventions, and you have to know that simpler is better usually. Next thing to avoid friction points is think user flows. And the user flows, think about it as a series of steps that you want the user to follow once they land on your site. For example, in the first one here is search traffic. They're going to the homepage. Then we're going to walk them through the product tour, pricing, then free trial, and then likely onboarding. And to do this, you have to keep the user focused on the next step always. So towards the bottom of the page, always put the next step. Never, ever leave it to the user to decide what to do next. So always just suggest some next steps. In this case, MailChimp has two types of next steps. One's to learn more about certain things they know the buyer wants to know. And then the start for free call to action. Next point is STP principle, or show the product. In this case, E3 series is showing a short, like 2 to 3 minute demo on every feature page. And the point is to get the user to get a feel for your product. How to structure a software tour page? Well, there's many formulas to do this. There's no right or wrong, but this is one formula that you can try. It has worked really well. You start with the core value proposition of that function area, then some aspirational benefits or things that you can do, can experience by taking advantage of this functionality. Then go into details of how actually you deliver that solution, how actually the software solves that problem. Social proof to make sure that the user knows that he's not the first one, it has worked for others, and then suggested next steps. So the fourth guideline is testing and experimentation as a culture. You have to embrace it as a culture because you're never gonna reach optimal in one step. And I always get this argument about radical redesign versus iterative redesign. And I get this quote from people saying that, hey, if Edison focused on continuous improvement, he will have just come up with a better candle. And that's trying to discredit the value of iterative redesign. Well, no, I mean, yes, he came up with a radical idea, but do you have any idea how many times he iterated trying to do different things to come up with the final working bulb? I mean, he tried more than 1,000 iterations. So radical has its value, but once you land on the next mountain, you have to climb it. So you may have a good design or a good approach right now, and keep improving onto that. You're gonna reach a local maxima, if you would. Then somebody comes up with a completely different idea, like let's just a pop-up for sign up instead of a landing page. Let's come up with a free trial that loads with some preloaded use cases, etc. So you come up with that great next idea, but then you have to iterate several versions until you actually reach the optimal solution. And the point is that there's always something that you can try and then iterate on that. So things that you should always be monitoring and testing. This is not a comprehensive list, but some things that are worth always looking at and having some kind of test running is your homepage value proposition, demo, trial, freemium sign-up points, and calls to action to sign up, homepage flow, product tour, pricing page, landing pages which have a lot of traffic, and then email subject lines and body text. So there's a methodology that was coined by Luke Sommerfield at HubSpot. It's called growth-driven design. If you heard about this, the point is that everything around you is evolving and is changing at a very rapid pace. The markets, the product, customers, competition, everything is changing. So unless you have a method to gather data and keep your website updated, you're gonna fall behind. So a typical approach that you cannot afford to do is just to have a shiny new site and then wait periods of 2 to 5 years to come up with the next redesign, and nothing happens in between to the website. So what's gonna happen is that you're gonna create these huge valleys of underperformance because everything has been changing and now your website is obsolete very soon. So the best way to do it is actually to make small iterations, small improvements to always keep up with new functionality you're launching, new markets you're addressing, changing customer needs, competition landscape. You react to that continually. So unless you have a methodology to do this, you're going to fall behind. So, okay, how to make SaaS websites that converts. Here's a recap of what we saw today. Get your value proposition right. Put your customers at the center. You know, if you don't know how your customer speaks, then ask them and get some feedback. Your content's purpose is to help your users do their job. Focus on getting the user's hands on the product. Eliminate friction points that impede number 4. And embrace testing and experimentation as a culture. Oh, and continually monitor your site performance. Very, very important. All right, this was Eduardo Esparza. If you want to continue learning about how to make SaaS website that converts, feel free to reach out to me or go to our website at www.market8.net. You can also request to get the slides of this presentation at www.market8.net/SaaS conversions/PLG Summit. I'm also offering a 20-minute live site evaluation where I can pinpoint some of the things that you could be doing better on your site. To request this, you can go to www.market8.net/site evaluation. And thanks for joining me today.